Okay, welcome back. Episode 14 of Harrison Talks Pod, a show where we talk about basketball and whatever else I have going on that week. I hope that you are having a great day, and this is coming out a day late than what I usually release. But I had to work all day yesterday, and no matter what, we're going to get this weekly basketball content out with you. And with that being said, it is a basketball week for us. No guests, no intros. And I would like to start today talking about Maverick Carter, and I'm sure we have to talk about LeBron James at the same time. On last Thursday, it was announced that Maverick Carter is aiming towards collecting what is the word I'm looking for? Basically, he's looking towards launching a global basketball league and is seeking $5 billion in startup. Um, that would be from private equity, sovereign wealth, wealthy individuals, um, whether that's domestically or internationally. Let's get into it. Uh, this might come as a surprise to some that think, well, if it's Maverick Carter, then it must be LeBron James. And there's no secret that LeBron James wants to be an owner of an NBA franchise. So now it's a league. Now they're thinking about starting a league. But on the other hand, and I think I'm more on this end of things, is that with the status of basketball and the NBA as a worldwide product, I think this only makes sense. So let's go back a little bit. I enjoyed reading about this and the idea that this is only Maverick Carter's project. Sure, sure, okay, yeah, Maverick Carter is going to start an international basketball league. He wants $5 billion to start it up. But no, no, no. The best or one of the best NBA basketball players of all time, one of the best basketball players of all time, will not be involved. Yeah, sure. I'm sure that's exactly what investors would want, right? All right. Enough sarcasm. Of course, LeBron James is going to be involved in this somehow. And he has to be a part of the pitch. Which billionaire out there is saying, yes, Maverick Carter, we only want you for this basketball league, and 100% we don't want the best basketball player to be involved in this league in any sense? So, what I don't know is what it looks like. My mind immediately goes to Saudi, of course, with everything going on with the world, uh, and with professional sports just getting to be a lot more expensive. Thinking back to this was July 2023, Mbappe signed his crazy deal with Saudi. What was it, like a 1 year for like $500 million or whatever it was? And then LeBron James shared a gif of Forrest Gump running out of the house, um, saying that he was going to he would accept that 1 year $500 million Saudi deal. And then 2 months later, in September, we see that LeBron James is hanging out in Saudi Arabia. No surprise there. Um, but that's always been in the back of my mind, and I will talk a little bit about what I heard Brian Windhorst say on ESPN. The credit to Brian Windhorst on this. Brian Windhorst basically dropped a pretty big bomb saying that Adam Silver um, before Adam Silver is going to be looking at expansions in the NBA, whether that's Vegas or Seattle, European expansion is going to happen before that. And I assume that that means the NBA is looking towards a whole different expansion league. Good. I'm sure it's going to be connected somehow. But that came as a big surprise because Adam Silver has talked about NBA expansion openly for quite a while. He joked about it with LeBron James when they won the NBA Cup last season. Said this trophy does not come with a franchise. Sorry. So that's something else to think about. That Maverick Carter and whoever else, all the investors, might be starting a league that directly competes with another expansion league that the NBA is starting. Unrivaled League started last week for women's basketball. Haven't seen any live games. I do have HBO Max, so I'm gonna try to watch at least a little bit to get the idea of what the live broadcast really is. Very interesting to have women's basketball in the wintertime. 3-on-3 full court is a very interesting idea. I kind of like it. Um, but at the same time, it looks very, very exhausting to play 3-on-3 full court. Presentation looks nice. So uh, I think there's just influence. Like I think there's just influence on the global stage to expand and offer new products, offer perhaps new alternatives to the college, international league, G League routes that some people take after high school. Going back to Brian Windhorst, he mentions that there's kind of a disconnect on the worldwide stage as far as popularity, talent, and money. So in Europe, it seems like Europe gets all of the top talent. That's not true. It's especially because we might have a MVP this year that's Canadian. But a lot of the biggest talent, a big amount of the top 10 players in the league are from Europe. Players that play in Europe, the top players can make very good money. The resources available are quite nice, and we've heard for years that America should maybe look towards adopting some European practices on professional basketball or professional sports, where they are focused at it from a young age, they are playing it professionally at a young age, and perhaps there's other problems within America when we think about things like AAU, things like where they're almost playing amateur basketball professionally and getting lots and lots of miles, sometimes too much, before they actually hit a pro level. Basketball in China is huge. Basketball in China makes a lot of money. The NBA makes lots of money from China. Uh, you always see the NBA side of China on anything, of course. With that, with all the money, with all the resources, with all the popularity, they do not produce NBA talent. They had Yao Ming. They've had a couple of others that have been drafted, but they have looked for their next Yao Ming for over 20 years now. The NBA started a league in Africa. Uh, so there so there's a disconnect. Because also we have places like Saudi that are getting involved in golf and are for sure wanting to get involved in any sport that is going to be profitable on an international scale. But they don't have a league and they don't have players. So we have some places of the world that have less money and good talent. We have some parts of the world that have lots of money and very little talent. We have some parts of the world that don't have money and don't have any basketball at all. So this league could very much be a response to a need that is out there. Very, very interesting. Um, can't say I'm too surprised. And my prediction is that LeBron James will eventually be an NBA part owner. Speaking of which, average NBA franchise. I looked this up. I forgot to reference the source, but average franchise estimated to be at 4.6 billion this year. So we could assume that an expansion franchise would easily be over $5 billion. LeBron doesn't have that, uh, but it would be incredibly easy for him to bring on investors with LeBron James in the forefront. Of course, Matt Ishbia with the Phoenix Suns set a lot of this off. Matt Ishbia bought the Phoenix Suns for over $4 billion, which I think made a lot of owners think, like this product I own, or this product that I never said I would sell, is actually worth a lot more than I anticipated. As we saw that because, speaking of which, Mark Cuban, who said he would never sell the Mavs, sold the Mavericks for over $3 billion last year. So we're seeing franchises blow up in value. It'll be interesting if the NBA really wants to expand into Europe, if they want to expand domestically. They're going to be running out of domestic billionaires that actually have this amount of money. So I wonder how much time it is, or how much they resist in the future for bringing on foreign money, basically, because that's where it's headed. Back in the '80s, when you could buy you buy a team for under 100 million. There's a lot of those, but 4 or 5 billion, there's only so many of those people in the world. And I forget who said it. I think it was Matt Ishbia who said it, that he knows all those people already. If you're a billionaire with all that money, you already know everyone in that circle. All right. Quick predictions before I move on then. What would NBA Europe expansion look like? Here's my quick predictions, no idea, but it's fun. 40 game season starts in the summer, overlaps with the first quarter of the NBA season. The finals come after the NBA Cup, which would be nice for it to be featured. They will start with 6 teams. I thought perhaps four, but I think six is good to start the league. I think the Unrivaled League, excuse me, started with six. London, Paris, Berlin, I'm going to say Madrid, and I don't know. Pick two other big Western European cities and put some NBA teams in there. There will be exhibition matches with the NBA in the preseason, and there has to be something during the regular season as well. But that's where my predictions stop. Next part I want to talk about are the Golden State Warriors. And it's time to talk about this and say the question that I hate saying with this team and any team that LeBron is on. Um, are the Warriors done? Should the Warriors make changes, or are they done? I hate asking this question because I'm pretty sure at some point in 2021, I asked the same exact question. I said they were done, and I was wrong. Uh, but I think in 2021, I might have had more of a vision. I was dead wrong in 2021, 22 when they won a fourth championship. They certainly look better on paper in 21 and 22. They certainly look younger back then. The similarities from the beginning of this season and the beginning of last season are very drastic, are very, very similar. Let me talk about Buddy Hield. I think I was just too excited about the Buddy Hield experience in the beginning of the season. The Warriors started this season at 7-1. In that span, Hield averaged 21.1 points, 4.5 rebounds, 2.3 assists during the span. But for the season, he's averaging 12.2 points per game, which is very similar to his averages the last uh, 3 seasons. So, while we might give Buddy Hield a hard time, he's pretty much played as expected, which is too bad. Don't think we'll see Buddy Hield as an all-star. I do hope that he improves from the 12.2 points per game. I do hope that he gets to start more games. He was certainly a very, very early six man of the year candidate early on this season. But it's a similar start, as I said, to last season. So this season they started 7-1 and eventually 10-2. And right now they are currently 11th place in the East and in the West. Excuse me. Last season, they started 5-1 and then started to lose games. Both last season and this season, the Warriors had 5-game losing streaks early on in the season. So both years, and really since they won the championship, they have been a very streaky team. Last season, they ended 46-36, which sounds pretty good, but with the status of the West, 46 wins is 10th place. Crazy. And they lost their first play-in game, so they were out. Should the Warriors shift? Should the Warriors trade for a center? A number of players come to mind, including Jonas Valanciunas, Nikola Vucevic, Robert Williams III, who is a power forward center, Miles Turner, who's always my favorite person to bring up every trade deadline season, and it never happens. It might not be a great fit because if they are going to trade for a center, they need to trade for a center that has a defensive focus. So while the best fit as far as money goes might be Vucevic, uh, it is not the best fit when you consider you would have to give up depth like a Gary Payton or a Kevon Looney, so you're losing depth to get depth, um, assets, money, draft picks, whatever else it might be. So I am certain that they will be looking towards trades, and Steph Curry even mentioned that if Dunleavy is looking towards making the team better, is at least looking towards it and doing that, then that is perfectly fine for him. Dennis Schroeder, that trade is, I think, to be determined on whether we see that as successful or not. It is great to see him on this team. I'll say, like on a team that could potentially be in the playoffs. There could be other movement as well. I'm still waiting for the Jazz. I guess the Jazz did make a very small trade this afternoon, but still waiting on players like John Collins, Walker Kessler, Lauri Markkanen. I'm hoping that they end up on different teams, and I'm hoping that players like Kessler and Markkanen end up on playoff teams this year. Cameron Johnson seems to be one of the most popular names leading up to the deadline. And the Nets have made it clear that even though they've been aggressive in trading so far, trading Dorian Finney-Smith, trading Dennis Schroeder, that they're not going to be as aggressive trading Cam Johnson. Perhaps they want to keep him, and perhaps they just know that he would be a good fit on a lot of teams, and they could possibly just get a really good deal for him. So we'll see you there. This segment, I should have started with this. This segment comes after the Warriors lost at home to the Celtics, 125 to 85. Might have been a wake-up call. It is their worst home loss in 40 years. Outscored 43 to 24 in the third quarter. They're outscored 52 to 26 in the paint. One of their biggest problems all season. 19 to 8 on points off turnovers to the Celtics. Curry had 18, while the rest of the starters combined for 18 points. So, get Curry some help, I guess. Last part today. I wanted an excuse to talk about the New Orleans Pelicans, and hey, while the New Orleans Pelicans only have 11 wins on the season, they have won 4 in a row amazingly. Now, while those last 2 wins do come from the Jazz, and the Jazz are 3-7 in their last 10, the Pelicans have put together a nice series of 4 wins this past week, and even though Zion Williamson has only played 10 games this season, played 2 this past week, there's some positives that we can talk about. I know this team isn't trying to win, but there's some positives we can talk about. In this last game against the Jazz, Pelicans trailed by at most 25 points at one point, and they were outscored 38 to 19 in the first quarter. The Pelicans went on a 24-3 run that went into the fourth quarter and took the lead. And briefly, the Jazz took back the lead at a 99-92 margin. McCollum had 45 points and 6 big points in the overtime victory. Trey Murphy, 24 points, 7 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 blocks. DeJounte Murray, almost a triple-double at 26 points, 11 assists, 9 rebounds. They had 12 turnovers to 28 assists overall. Did the Jazz care about winning this game? they might have thrown this game away. But a win is a win. Consistency is going to be concerned with this team. But at this point, if they're not trying to win, hey, we'll take any consistency or productivity that we can get. Zion Williamson has played 4 of the last 8 games and only 10 overall this season. So take with that what you will. He's playing more. He's not playing as many minutes as he should be for this team. And it's interesting that when he can play, when he's on the court, even though the eye test, which I never use, but the eye test looks like he's out of shape, he can still play very, very efficiently. So it's just so unfortunate. In the last 4 games, in this 8-game span, he has averaged 20.8 points, 8.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists, 2 steals, 1.3 blocks, and this is in 25 minutes being played. So, all the potential is there. Get him on another team. Some other positives of these last 4 wins. They were second in points at 124.3, ninth in offensive rating at 119.3, 10th in defense at 112.1, 8th in net rating at 6.5. Had a great week of offense from this team. Trey Murphy, in the 5 games since he has returned, has averaged 25.8 points, 6.6 rebounds, 3.8 assists, 1.6 steals, 1.2 blocks. Uh, has been really, really good. Four 30 plus points in his last 10 games played. I then looked and I tried to find lineup stats for Trey Murphy. And if you want a better idea of how inconsistent this team has been, um, there is no three-man lineup for the Pelicans that has played more than 25 games out of their, I believe, 40 games so far this season. There are only 12 three-man lineups that have played 20 or more games, 20 to 25 games this season. So um, they just they've had a lot of difficulties getting their best players on the floor at the same time together. So as I mentioned, they are 11 and 32, 43 games. There we go. They are 11 and 32 on the season. They're still last in the West. Uh, will they move any big players before the trade deadline? I've stated it- I've stated I've stated it on here before, and my feeling is I really hope they move some of their big players, Ingram and or Zion, before the deadline. Do I think it'll happen? No. Ingram is on the last year of his deal at 36 million. The Pelicans attempted to move him last summer, and the new CBA is proving to make that um, very difficult. The Pelicans are at 172 million this season, so they are very close to second apron. They have never been a team to go into the luxury tax, and I know they're looking at being a luxury tax team for a team that is the worst or second worst in the league at this point. Ingram would seek around 50 million next season. I'm torn on this one. On one end, you don't want to just give up one of your best assets for nothing. But on the other end, if you don't move Zion, you will be a second apron team if you sign Ingram in the offseason. That limits who you can sign. That greatly limits who you can trade for, especially if you're trying to trade some of your top talent. Just not being able to take back any extra money in that deal. So I really don't have a good answer for this. Besides that, I just think that he should be moved now, and hopefully there's a team out there that sees his potential and thinks we can re-sign this guy um, right now to an extension, and we want him on our team. Not sure if there's a trade market for Zion. He's been so inconsistent. Uh, Injuries, illness, away from the team because he's late for the flight. It's definitely possible. There's lots of talks out there. There's crazy talks like Zion to the Warriors and things like that, but maybe it's not a crazy talk at the same time. Let's leave it there. I hope that you all have a great week, a great NBA week, and I'll see you next week, maybe by myself, maybe with some guests. See you next time. Thank you so much.